Hello everyone, how are you doing? It's October 30th, and what a day we have had here of earnings, news, drama. Let's get right into it and talk about where everyone's at right now. So, obviously, we're coming out of earnings here. This is pretty much what we've seen here. Next week, we've still got another round of big earnings with companies, but this was one of the big weeks. Some have hit really big, some have been a little bit off, but all in all, things have been great here. So today, Amazon, Apple, yesterday Microsoft, just killer. Apple, just killer quarterlies here. Netflix came out here, said, hey, we're going to do a 10-to-1 split. Wow, that's a huge split. That is a huge split. And everyone's got new projections of Amazon, where it's going to go, and everyone's freaking out. And more than likely within some time here in the near future, a year or so from now, seeing how heavy Amazon gets into this AI movement that they're pushing into aggressively right now. Amazon is just turning into a very, just unbelievable beast of a company. I think that's where, a lot of people that aren't in the stock market aren't obsessed with maybe the very nitty-gritty elements of companies, something like Amazon, where they think, well, Amazon is just it's just they sell products. Well, they do a lot more than that. They're doing a lot more than that. They're really pushing the AI. They're really pushing into data centers and robots too. And this is a situation of, we're just going to see this company be producing more and more bigger quarterlies. It's really wild to see right now. So, friends, how is everyone doing? Obviously, the market sold. Things generally sold off, but it wasn't like awful. There's still things that are still very high. There's things that are just sitting a little below where we would like them, but let's talk about what's going on here. So before I talk about BigBear and Richtech here, and I don't want to make this a long video because there's not a lot of new things to say, and I don't think everybody wants me to hear repeat the same rhetorical stuff over and over. Probably will do some of it, but all in all, I do want to talk about RIOT here. So I've talked about the stock before, but we got to talk about this because this company right here just produced an insane quarterly. So this is really interesting. And obviously, there's a lot of talk about crypto, Bitcoin, all that. And obviously, this company is very much, Riot Platform here is very much wrapped up in that. So they just reported this hefty quarterly. This is a lot of what, I think a lot of us go like, what does our future investments look like? And this is the thing where this week has been a very weird week because we've had a lot of even to Jerome Powell coming out here and talking about this AI bubble. So, we had the Fed's talk this week, and even Jerome Powell, which was very interesting, and this is one of the most craziest things we've heard Jerome Powell say, and he could have really destroyed the market with this comment, but he didn't. He actually said something really positive. Jerome Powell came out this week, and one of the things that he talked about, I think a reporter asked him, they said, what do you think about this AI bubble? When do you think the AI bubble is going to pop? And Jerome was very fast to say, well, first of all, I don't look at this as an AI bubble. What we're looking at right now are actual AI companies that are in massive profit zones, still growing in massive profit zone. We're seeing right now, business fundamentals are changing, obviously, with Trump and how things are going here and money being allocated here or there. Things are changing aggressively, and we're having all this new competition on top of each other. So they're all fighting for, the biggest and best quarterlies and common ground. So, and he said, when we had the dot-com bubble, a lot of those companies weren't making diddly squat. They just weren't making money. And that showed very fast. And that's when you had the pop. But it was just a matter of, people like the internet, internet's going to change everything. And of course, there's a lot of that conversation right now with AI. AI is going to change everything. What we're seeing now, though, too, and Jerome Powell said it perfect, a lot of those AI companies, those dot-com companies, they weren't making money. They just, even Microsoft at that point wasn't making anything. Google, all that wasn't making anything of what we're seeing now. So now we're in this moment of where, the AI companies that we're watching here, they're not stopping with money. They are demolishing quarterlies right now. And now we very much are getting into this realm of crypto. companies. I mean, that's the best way we can call them. But even that .com bubble thing, it just didn't happen overnight. It was a slow process, and Google didn't even come to market until 2004. So what we're looking at right now is it's not showing signs of this is going to pop. We just had essentially pretty much more than half of our big tech companies report earnings, and they cleaned up. They just cleaned up. There were some things lacking here or there, but all in all, a lot of this sell-off that we're seeing right now is a way overreaction. And still there's stuff there's stuff lurking right now with Trump and China, tariffs, all this conversation, and that's still being, sorted over right now. And the market is really focused on that. But I mean, this is a great week. I'm very much in the Tom Lee, Dan Ives camp. Obviously, they've been talking this week, and they're still very much on, AI companies are still running, and Q4 is yet to come here, and it's probably going to be another shocker. Two, with that, the holidays are coming up, so especially these AI stocks that have physical products like Apple, sales are about to, kick up even more. Amazon, so they both those companies just reported great quarterlies. Well, the next ones more than likely are going to be even better. With Apple, the iPhone 17 is just killing it right now. I mean, they are crushing sales with the iPhone 17. So with Riot here, getting back to that conversation, I definitely think, I don't talk about this stock a lot because whenever you mix crypto with stocks, just bread and butter stocks, I don't know why, just people, it's a very, it's a very thin audience, and I don't know why that is. I love crypto. I invest in crypto. I just don't really talk about it on here. But with what this company is, I definitely think this is just going to be here. This is just a thing that is in our future, whether people understand it, want to understand it, it's going to be here. I think crypto in general is just going to be more of a common conversation here in the future. And AI and crypto obviously are just, they probably will be, the two slices of bread on each side here, one being AI and one being crypto. In the middle, you've got everything else that goes with that. So, wow. I just want to say, wow, this is crazy, because I see a lot of people comment like, why don't you talk about this? I have, but this quarterly just came out is that's, wow, really cool. Talking about Richtech, like I said, I still feel the same thing about Richtech and BigBear. I still feel very much about the same like I did at the beginning of the week. I still think that Richtech is going to have another push up here somewhere in this future whenever the market starts to show signs of pushing again. Richtech has had a good week. It's had a good week. It was at this DC conference with NVIDIA talking. They released, their new robot here, Dex. It's not new, but it's obviously new enough where people go, what's that? So, with Richtech here, they've got Dex, they've got Atom. They're two main robots right now. But those are things that we're probably going to see more and more of here in 2026. I really think there is a situation here that, people are either going to have patience with this or they're not. And I totally get that one way or another. There's a huge gap here between this $6 and $5 range. There is a hole right there that is trying to be filled. Now, when that is going to happen, we'll see here, but it's Richtech is going to have help from the market, undoubtedly. And like I said, earlier in the week here, there was a hit piece article written on Richtech, so we will see how much longer that lasts. I don't think it will last much longer, to be honest. But Richtech here, I think this is kind of like a firecracker that could just go off any day because of their relationship with NVIDIA. Something more could happen there. They could get another deal, undoubtedly a nice big deal. The Golden Knights, that's what it was, the Golden Knights, going into their arena and help, putting their robot in there. So there's good things happening here. I just think that with Richtech, it's going to be a lot of conversation of, very aggressive pull-ups and very aggressive pullbacks until we see quarterlies get more aggressive here. But I undoubtedly, I think if Richtech holds this $4 range to this $5 to $6 range, really trying to dip back into $5-6, what it's been doing here essentially, if it can catch another market run here, which undoubtedly, we could see here anytime, I think the next big push is obviously obvious at this point it's going to be somewhere in this $8-10 range here. That's the next staircase to be built out. Is that possible? Of course that's possible, but it's either going to happen in January if they report a great quarterly, or it's going to happen very soon with good news or just the market running up here essentially. So I'm still with Richtech 100%. I saw a lot of people commenting like, what are you doing with Richtech? Did you sell out? No. I still very much believe that this is going to turn into something. I think a robotics market is going to show its face here very soon in the new year. I really do. I think this is going to come up here pretty hot and heavy. But obviously there is a gap here that investors want to be filled, and it is this, $5 to $6 range. It's got to be filled here. So hopeful that can happen. And then BigBear. So what we're looking at right now, BigBear has one more week until quarterlies. And obviously next week is the week with Palantir. Palantir will be releasing quarterlies next week, next Monday to be exact. So that right there, why I say that is because obviously, and I hate to do this, but I've got to do it because other people talk about it. And if I don't talk about it, people are going to comment and say, why are you not talking about it? Comparing, apples to oranges here, BigBear and Palantir. Next Monday is Palantir's quarterlies. The Monday after that will be BigBear after hours. Now, Palantir, we know that is like, they're going to smoke quarterlies. That is just like, that is a rocket about to take off for Jupiter. Okay. BigBear here is one of these, it's going to be kind of lost in the jungle until we get out here. We don't know what they're going to produce because a lot of these deals that have happened, we just don't know how much they were. Either way, everything that has happened this year with BigBear, this has gone so much better than I think any of us could have imagined. BigBear has captured so many deals this year. It is wild. It is wild. I cannot believe how aggressive this company has become here this year. This is amazing. Now, obviously, I would like to say the stock has been very aggressive, and it has. There's been 3 to 4, however you want to count it out here, very big climbs here with BigBear. It's had a very aggressive stock year. It's also had a very aggressive year with deals. If BigBear can continue this into 2026, this is going to be a monumental thing that is going to happen with this company here in 2026. Defense deals and these airline deals, if they push into these, this is going to be a really, really fundamentally different company than what we're looking at right now. It's really interesting what we're seeing right now. So like I said, friends, I don't want to keep it too long here. I've already said so much, but I'll say this and I'll shut up. Comparing, Palantir to BigBear, I get where people say that, and I do think that I don't want to say software. I don't want to say the inner workings of the company. When we talk about comparing, I don't think comparison is a word. Comparing BigBear and Palantir, a lot of that conversation started with Palantir. When they first started, they started to receive defense deals. Okay, I was there. We were watching it. If you were there, you were there. You know exactly what we're talking about. Palantir started to get these defense deals, and really nothing was happening that aggressive. Even at that point when Palantir was getting defense deals 3 years ago, it was a $7, $8, $10 stock on a really good day. But it was getting aggressive deals. Now, they were good deals. They were hefty, chunky deals, okay? Nothing like what we're seeing with BigBear. But the comparison, I said it again, the comparing of BigBear and Palantir here is that BigBear has found itself working for the United States government. Multiple contracts here. That is fantastic. And that for Palantir was a huge change for the company, and we're still seeing that today, where Palantir has really turned into, it's obviously a software company, but most people at this point look at it as a defense company. They look at it as that, and obviously they're doing other things. I'm not trying to break down what they do, all that kind of stuff, but they're obviously helping the United States government, but they're also helping just a lot of companies too. We've seen that time and time again. So with that, if this is kind of the kickstart that Big Bear can have getting into more aggressive deals, and obviously I think that it's pretty darn obvious that the fact that Big Bear was getting so many of these defense deals and then started to accumulate these airline deals, I don't think it's by any coincidence. I also don't think it's by any coincidence that the new CEO, Kevin here, has a military background, and now Big Bear really is just considered a defense stock with what, essentially their software is. It's essentially defense software. I mean, if you really look at it here. So that's why they're getting these aggressive airline deals. That's why they're getting these defense deals. And I know people argue about that. They say, well, they need to, get into other companies too. They need to, allocate deals elsewhere. I totally agree with that. But if this is the jumpstart that can get Big Bear to a positive, a green quarterly, to where, the stock can get into a double-digit number, I think a lot of us at this point would be happy as a pig in mud if it just went to $10 to $15. That would be unbelievable. So if Big Bear finds itself in that place in 2026, this is definitely going to prove to a lot of us that this was the right hold. This was the right decision. It's hard to let go of something that is starting to show signs of aggression with a stock, the right aggression, big deals. If we can see, even if Big Bear doesn't pass this quarterly, which I don't know that they are, I've said this time and time again, I've been so public with this that I can't say it enough. And that's probably not what a lot of people want to hear. I think generally a lot of people want to be told something that maybe is not true. That's fine. That's just not me. Maybe I'd get more views if I did that. I don't know. I don't know what other people on here are doing, but I want to tell you is that we don't know. We just don't know if they're going to pass these quarterlies. If there was a quarterly to pass, if it's not Q3, more than likely Q4 should be really probably the best we've seen in years from this company. But undoubtedly Q3 here is going to tell us where they're at. We can probably start to add more money slightly on top of what Q4 will have, because we'll know what Q3 really is here. So it's going to be interesting what we see here, okay? And it just may be another place where they don't hit quarterlies, the stock sells off, and then people start piling up more shares because they've seen all the things that have happened here. So there could be one last pile up in the van here with Big Bear to getting to Q4 later on next year, to where we see something really big happen here where they can come out with a good aggressive quarterly, and people are just waiting and they're going to have their moment with it. Friends, I want to wish all of you the best of luck. I really do mean that, and I will talk to you soon. Take care, everyone. Bye bye.